when it comes to manifesting the life you really want, there's there's the first thing you need to do is you need to visualize what that is. So you're going to use your imagination, or you've already used your imagination to create the vision of what you want. And as far as we know, human beings are the only living creature that has an imagination, that can imagine things that don't exist. We don't really know for sure, but everything that I've read and studied says we're the only living organism that has an imagination. So that's pretty interesting if you think about that for a minute. If that's the case, then how do we use that? So, and we use the concrete example of the Wright brothers. They imagined the ability to fly in the sky, and they took a lot of others that came before them that tried. You ever see those old black and white videos of those things jumping up and down and all the crazy contraptions people came up with at attempts to try to do the same thing? So the Wright brothers took all that and they had a vision. They used their imagination and said, "No, we're gonna keep working and plugging away, and we're gonna figure out how to fly." So they didn't invent flying. The ability to fly existed since the beginning of time. And if you take that same analogy, the life you want already exists. What you're doing is you're getting out of your own way to make it happen. So if you subscribe to science, there's the scientific process. You have a hypothesis, and then you conduct experiments, right, until you achieve the hypothesis that you have. And that is the core of a scientific process. So this isn't much different than that. What you're saying is, my hypothesis is I'm going to be this person, this kind of salesperson, this kind of success in business, this kind of partner, whatever it is, athlete, whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever it is, it's a personal thing to you. So there's your imagination, your human ability to visualize and imagine something that you can't see with your eyes right now. Then, for most us human beings, as we went from a little tiny baby all the way up to now, if you were a little baby, you can believe anything. And you do. Like some kids will jump off the back of the couch, think they're Superman, and they crash to the floor. And then they get hurt and they realize, oh, I shouldn't do that again. I shouldn't try to fly. And so over time we learn not to go after the things that we have in our imagination, or bad things will happen. Maybe even our parents taught us that. Don't do that, you'll fall. I know my mom used to say that. Her dad used to say that constantly. And my mom she was so afraid of falling. And it was programmed in her from an early age. So when you use your imagination and you imagine what you really want to happen, once you've done that, the way you manifest it is you believe it. And manifestation can't happen unless you have belief. Because if you just write it down and go back to your life, which I think a lot of us do, most of us do, then you're still going to allow those thoughts and things to get in the way of what you've imagined in your imagination from happening. So if the Wright brothers said, in my imagination, humans are flying. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what the contraption is yet, but I have that in my imagination. So if they started experimenting with different ways of flying, and every single time they failed, they'd give up, then someone else would have eventually figured it out, because the ability to fly is obviously there, right? It always was, always will be. But they didn't allow any kind of negativity to creep in and stop them from realizing the vision that they have.